Jax's revenge domain. We're terminating you effective immediately. Security will escort you out. She didn't even look up from her brand new MacBook Pro when she said it. Jessica Palmer, the CEO's daughter-in-law. Day one on the job as Chief Strategy Officer, and she's already playing executioner with a Starbucks cup in one hand and AirPods dangling from her ears like some kind of corporate princess. I'm Walt Morrison, 49 years old, and I've been watching this company grow from a two-man garage operation for the past 23 years. Built the legal framework that turned Steelbridge Industries from a small-time manufacturing shop into a $300 million operation. And this kid thinks she can just delete me from the payroll like I'm some outdated software. Yes, ma'am, I said, standing up from my desk and straightening my tie. Military training from my Gulf War days kicks in when civilians try to bark orders. I'll collect my things. She finally glanced up, probably expecting me to argue or beg. Instead, she got the same measured response I'd give any commanding officer. Her perfectly straightened blonde hair was pulled back in what I'm sure some magazine called a power ponytail, and her cream-colored blazer still had the price tags tucked under the collar. Fresh out of Northwestern's MBA program, according to the resume I'd seen floating around HR. Tell Howard the 1500 briefing should be educational, I added, picking up my briefcase and clicking my pen twice. Short, controlled clicks that meant the tactical assessment was complete. The security guard looked confused as hell. Jimmy had worked here for 12 years, knew exactly who signed his paychecks and who approved his overtime during the busy seasons. But orders were orders, and he walked me to the elevator, like we'd rehearsed this dance before, though his shoulders were tense with the wrongness of it all. Sorry about this, Mr. Morrison, he muttered as the elevator doors slid shut. I just nodded. Jimmy was a good man, former Army himself, understood chain of command even when it made no sense. What Jessica didn't know, what none of them knew except the legal team who'd helped me draft it, was that I'd been preparing for this exact scenario since 2001. You see, I learned something during the dot-com crash when half our investors tried to gut the company for quick cash and flip it to overseas manufacturers. Never give anyone the power to destroy what you built unless you've got bigger guns pointed right back at them. The walk from Steelbridge's headquarters to downtown took exactly 17 minutes at my normal pace. I'd timed it before, during lunch breaks when I needed to clear my head after particularly frustrating board meetings. The autumn air was crisp, cutting through the business district like a blade, and I used the time to run through the tactical checklist I'd memorized years ago. While Jessica was probably updating her LinkedIn status and measuring her new corner office for curtains, I was 3 blocks away filing paperwork that would turn her corporate debut into a legal nightmare. My lawyer, Sandra Chang, had been expecting this call for months. Article 7, Section 3. She asked when I walked through her office door. That's the one. Sandra had been our external counsel for 8 years, ever since the Enron mess when everyone was worried about rogue executives making unauthorized decisions. She understood the industrial manufacturing business, understood the kind of family dynamics that could destroy a company from the inside. Article 7, Section 3 of our shareholder agreement was elegant in its simplicity. If any non-equity officer terminated a founding partner without board approval, all executive powers would be suspended immediately. Emergency board meeting within 3 hours. Voting control reverted to original equity holders until proper governance could be restored. The clause had been my idea, drafted during sleepless nights when I watched other companies get torn apart by internal politics and family feuds. Howard Palmer had signed it without much thought back then, probably figured it would never matter since we were all getting along fine in 2001. You sure about this, Walt? Sandra asked, reviewing the activation documents one final time. Once we file these papers, there's no walking it back. The process becomes automatic. I'd spent 23 years quietly accumulating shares in Steelbridge Industries, not through salary negotiations or bonus packages. Those were for people who thought small. I did it through sweat equity during the lean years when Howard couldn't make payroll, crisis investments when others bailed during the 2008 recession, and strategic buyouts when partners needed quick cash for divorces or medical bills. Every time the company faced a crisis, I was there with capital and solutions. When our biggest client threatened to leave in 2015, I personally flew to Detroit and spent 6 days rebuilding that relationship. When the patent lawsuit nearly bankrupted us, I mortgaged my house to pay legal fees, 68% ownership, filed and notarized in Delaware. Accumulated one careful transaction at a time while everyone else was focused on quarterly bonuses and corner offices. I'm sure I told Sandra, clicking my pen 3 times. The sound echoed in her office like a countdown timer. File the papers. The courier service we used was discreet and fast. By 1430, the activation documents were time-stamped and delivered to every board member, with copies to our general counsel and the SEC compliance office. The legal machinery was in motion, gears turning with the precision of a military operation. Howard Palmer built Steelbridge with his bare hands back when Detroit still meant something to American manufacturing. Started with a single CNC machine in his garage, taking contract work from the big three automakers when they still built cars that lasted 20 years. I met him in 1999, fresh out of the service with a law degree and zero patience for corporate politics. "We need someone who understands contracts but won't screw us over," Howard had said during my interview. He was 42 then, lean and hungry, with motor oil under his fingernails and a vision of building something that mattered. I became employee number 3, after Howard and his original machinist, old Pete Williams, who'd worked for Ford since the Carter administration. My job was simple: keep us legal, keep us profitable, and keep the vultures away when they smelled success. The phone started ringing at 14:47. Howard's personal line, then his office, then his cell. I watched each call go to voicemail from Sandra's office window, counting the rings like artillery rounds in the distance. The man needed time to read the legal packet and understand exactly what his daughter-in-law had triggered. Sandra was already preparing the follow-up documentation. "You know this will get ugly," she said, not looking up from her computer. Family businesses always do when lawyers get involved. It got ugly the moment she walked into my office with those AirPods in. When I finally answered Howard's 4th call, his voice was shaking like I'd never heard before. This was a man who'd negotiated million-dollar contracts with GM purchasing agents, who'd faced down union strikes and hostile takeover attempts without blinking. "Walt, we need to talk." "No, sir," I replied, checking the time on my watch, a Timex my father gave me when I shipped out for Kuwait. "We need to vote. Emergency board meeting in 73 minutes. As mandated by Article 7, you'll want to review the documentation before you arrive." The silence stretched long enough that I thought he'd hung up. I could hear office noise in the background, phones ringing, machinery humming through the walls of his corner office that overlooked the factory floor. "How much do you own, Walt?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a fired round, enough to protect what we built. Click. I'd first started accumulating equity in 2003 when the recession hit Michigan harder than anywhere else and half our clients disappeared overnight. Howard needed $2 million in working capital to keep the doors open, and the banks were treating manufacturing companies like radioactive waste. "I can cover it," I told him during that desperate January meeting, "but not a salary equity swap." "How much equity?" 12%. Howard had stared at me for a full minute. "That's a lot of ownership for a lawyer. It's a lot of risk for $2 million. That was the beginning. Every crisis became an opportunity. When our CFO embezzled $800,000 in 2009 and fled to Costa Rica, I stepped in to run finance until we found a replacement. Howard offered me a bonus. I took another 8% instead. When his brother-in-law tried to sell his shares to a Chinese conglomerate in 2011, I exercised my right of first refusal and bought him out at fair market value. Another 15%. The dot-com supplier who crashed and owed us $1.2 million. I convinced Howard to acquire their tooling and equipment through bankruptcy court, then personally guaranteed the financing, another 12%. By 2018, I was sitting on 47% ownership while Howard retained 35% and outside investors held the remaining 18%. But the big score came during COVID, when 2 of our major investors needed liquidity fast, and Howard couldn't raise the capital to buy them out himself. "I can handle it," I told him over a Zoom call in April 2020. Both positions, full market value. "That's almost $8 million, Walt." "I know what it costs." Howard's face on the screen looked older than his 63 years. "This will make you majority owner." "Yes, sir, it will." He'd been quiet for almost a minute, probably doing the math in his head. 47% plus, 21% equals 68%. Controlling interest. Real power, not just advisory influence. Why? He finally asked, "Because I believe in what we built here, and I don't trust anyone else to protect it." The transaction closed in May 2020, documented and filed with all the proper regulatory agencies. I became the majority shareholder of Steelbridge Industries, though we agreed to keep it quiet. Howard remained CEO, I stayed in my advisory role, and the company continued to operate exactly as it had before. Except now I had the nuclear option if things went sideways. The boardroom at Steelbridge had seen plenty of tough conversations over the years. Layoffs during the 2008 recession when we had to cut 30% of our workforce. The patent dispute that almost killed us in 2015 when a competitor claimed we'd stolen their injection molding process. Hostile takeover attempts that we fought off with legal maneuvering and sheer stubbornness, but this felt different when I walked in at exactly 1500. The air was thick with the kind of tension that builds before thunderstorms, when you can feel the electricity in your teeth. Howard sat at the far end of the table, staring at a stack of papers like they contained his own death warrant. Our CFO, Dennis Rodriguez, kept checking his phone and shifting in his chair like he was sitting on broken springs. The three outside directors, professionals I'd personally recruited over the years, looked like they'd rather be anywhere else on Earth. Andrew Palmer arrived 2 minutes early, which surprised me. Howard's son had developed a reputation for cutting things close, showing up to quarterly reviews with coffee stains on his shirt and excuses about traffic. Today, he looked pressed and nervous, like someone who finally understood that actions have consequences. Jessica walked in 3 minutes late, still carrying that Starbucks cup and wearing the same confident smile she'd had when she fired me. She moved toward the head of the table, like she owned the place, her heels clicking against the polished concrete floor with the kind of authority that comes from never being told no. "Good afternoon, everyone," she said, settling into what she assumed was her rightful seat. "I thought we could discuss the strategic realignment I've been planning. Starting with yesterday's personnel decisions, the board chairman, Robert Coleman, a 30-year veteran of the auto industry I'd recruited myself, cleared his throat like a judge calling court to order. "Ma'am, you can observe if you'd like, but that seat's reserved." Jessica stopped mid-gesture, her coffee cup halfway to her lips. Reserved for who? Nobody answered immediately. The silence stretched like a wire under tension, and I could see Andrew shifting uncomfortably in his chair. He knew something was wrong, but couldn't put his finger on exactly what. I was already walking toward the head of the table, carrying the leather folder I'd prepared during those sleepless nights in 2001 when Enron was collapsing and everyone was asking hard questions about corporate governance. Per Article 7, Section 3, I said, opening the folder with practiced precision, "I'm formally requesting a binding vote to rescind all executive appointments made in the past 48 hours, pending shareholder review." Jessica's face went through several interesting color changes, from confidence white to confusion pink to what the hell red. Her husband, Andrew, looked like he was trying to solve calculus in his head, working through implications he'd never bothered to consider before. Howard still wouldn't make eye contact with anyone, just kept staring at the packet of documents in front of him like they were written in hieroglyphics. "I don't understand," Jessica said, and for the first time her voice carried a tremor of uncertainty. You were just an advisor." I clicked my pen once, a sharp sound that cut through the boardroom like a blade. "No, ma'am. I'm a founding partner with 68% equity stake, accumulated over 23 years of building which you tried to tear down in 23 minutes. The words landed like artillery rounds. Dennis Rodriguez actually dropped his phone, and Robert Coleman leaned back in his chair with the expression of someone watching a controlled demolition. "That's impossible," Jessica said, though she was already reaching for her own folder, probably looking for the org chart someone had shown her during orientation. The company overview said Howard owns 51%. The public filings say Howard owns 32%, I corrected. The employee handbook says I'm senior legal counsel. Neither document reflects the actual equity distribution, which is filed separately with the Delaware Secretary of State. Andrew finally found his voice. "Walt, this is insane. Dad never said anything about your father signed every transaction personally," I interrupted, sliding a copy of the equity summary across the table. "Every share purchase, every crisis investment, every emergency loan when this company was 30 days from bankruptcy. He co-signed because he needed the capital, and I was the only one willing to risk it." The voting was swift and unanimous, not because they necessarily supported me over Jessica, but because fiduciary duty doesn't care about family politics or hurt feelings. When someone holds that much equity, the law is pretty clear about who calls the shots and who gets to make executive decisions. Robert Coleman read the results with the formality of a military tribunal. Motion carries 7-0. All executive appointments made within the past 48 hours are hereby rescinded effective immediately. Jessica sat frozen for a moment, processing the reality that her corporate debut had just become a legal disaster. "This doesn't have to destroy everything," she said finally, looking around the table for support that wasn't coming. "We can work something out." "I have ideas for ma'am," I said, standing up and straightening my tie. "Your ideas require executive authority which you no longer possess. Security will escort you out." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. The same words she'd used on me 4 hours earlier, delivered with the same professional courtesy but backed by actual legal power. Howard finally looked up when the gavel came down, his face aged about 10 years since morning. "Walt, I'm sorry, I lost control of this situation." Jessica thought she was helping modernize our approach, bring in fresh perspectives, sir, with respect. What she thought doesn't matter. What she did was terminate a founding partner without authorization. That's not a family dispute or a strategy disagreement. That's a corporate coup attempt. Andrew spoke for the first time since the voting finished. "This doesn't have to destroy everything, Walt. We can work something out." Jessica made a mistake, but she's family. I'd trained that boy myself, taught him how to read financial statements and negotiate with suppliers. Watched him graduate from Michigan State with a business degree that cost more than most people's houses. Gave the toast at his wedding to Jessica, wished them both well in front of 300 guests at the country club. And here he was, asking me to cover for his wife's incompetence, like it was a minor scheduling conflict. Son, the only thing destroyed here was the illusion that titles matter more than equity. I didn't work 80-hour weeks and mortgage my house during the startup years so someone could hand out executive positions like participation trophies. Jessica was escorted out by the same security guard who'd walked me to the elevator that morning. No Starbucks cup this time, no AirPods, no confident smile. Just a woman who'd learned the difference between real power and borrowed authority, and discovered that lesson costs more than most people can afford to pay. The boardroom emptied slowly after that, directors filing out with the subdued efficiency of people who just witnessed something they'd rather forget. Andrew lingered, probably hoping for a private word, but I was already packing my folder and preparing for the next phase of operations. Howard submitted his resignation that evening, effective immediately, citing health concerns and family obligations. I didn't fight it. The man had earned his retirement, even if the circumstances weren't what anyone had planned 6 months ago when we were discussing succession planning and legacy preservation. Sometimes the best leaders know when to step aside, and Howard Palmer understood that his time as CEO had ended the moment his daughter-in-law triggered Article 7. The transition happened faster than anyone expected. Within 48 hours, I was formally appointed executive chairman by unanimous board vote, and the company's organizational structure began shifting back toward merit-based operations instead of family politics and MBA theories. The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting on the factory floor. 247 employees packed into the main assembly area, from machinists who'd been here since the beginning to engineers fresh out of college. The morning shift was just starting, and you could smell the familiar combination of machine oil, coffee, and the kind of honest sweat that comes from building things that matter. Some of you heard about changes in leadership yesterday. I began standing on a work platform so everyone could see me clearly. Going forward, we're returning to the principles that built this company: merit-based advancement, earned respect, no shortcuts. The response was immediate and positive. These people understood the difference between leadership and authority, between respect that's earned and respect that's demanded. They'd watched Jessica Palmer walk through their workplace for exactly 1 day, taking notes on efficiency improvements she didn't understand and asking questions about processes she'd never bothered to learn. I promoted Jimmy, the security guard, to facilities manager that same morning. He'd been doing the job anyway for 3 years, just without the title or the pay increase that should have come with it. The man knew every inch of our 200,000 square foot facility, every employee's schedule, every vendor's delivery routine. More importantly, he understood that respect flows upward when it's given freely, not demanded from above. Mr. Morrison, I don't know what to say, Jimmy told me when I handed him the new employee handbook with his updated job description. Don't say anything. Just keep doing what you've been doing, except now you'll get paid properly for it. The IT director, Marcus Webb, got a corner office and a 20% raise after I learned he'd quietly refused to deactivate my system access when Jessica ordered him to lock me out. Marcus understood that real authority doesn't come from temporary appointments or family connections. He'd worked here for 8 years, built our entire network infrastructure, and knew exactly who had the legal power to make personnel decisions. I figured something was off, Marcus told me later. Lady shows up Monday morning and starts giving orders like she'd been here for years. Didn't sit right. That afternoon, I spent 2 hours walking the factory floor, talking to shift supervisors and machine operators about production schedules, quality metrics, and long-term planning. These conversations used to happen regularly when Howard and I made our rounds together, but they'd been replaced by PowerPoint presentations and quarterly review meetings ever since business school graduates started influencing our management approach. Old Pete Williams, our senior machinist who'd been here since day one, pulled me aside near the CNC stations where we still manufactured precision parts for automotive clients. Good to have real leadership back, he said, not bothering to lower his voice. That woman didn't understand what we do here, kept talking about optimization and efficiency like we were some kind of software program. Pete was 67 years old, eligible for retirement, but still working because he loved the craft of precision manufacturing. His hands could feel tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch, and he'd trained half our current workforce in the art of making things that lasted longer than the warranty period. She wanted to outsource our quality control to a third-party service, Pete continued, shaking his head. Said it would reduce overhead and improve profit margins. I tried to explain that quality isn't a line item you can optimize away, but she just smiled and took notes. That evening, I stayed late to review the personnel files Jessica had marked for efficiency improvements. Turned out she'd planned to eliminate 15% of our workforce within 90 days, starting with the highest paid machinists and senior technicians who understood our processes better than anyone. Her reasoning was purely financial. Older workers cost more in salary and benefits, while younger employees could be trained to follow standardized procedures for less money. What she didn't understand was that institutional knowledge can't be replaced by training manuals or YouTube videos. I shredded those files personally, fed them into the industrial document destroyer in our legal department. Some decisions are too important to delegate, and protecting the people who built this company was my responsibility now. The next few weeks settled into a new routine. Morning walks through production areas, afternoon meetings with department heads, evening reviews of financial reports, and long-term planning documents. The kind of hands-on leadership that had built Steelbridge in the first place, before organizational charts and management consultants, convinced everyone that running a company was too complicated for people who actually understood the business. Andrew Palmer submitted his resignation 10 days later, citing irreconcilable differences with new management direction. I accepted it without argument. The boy had potential once, but he'd chosen loyalty to his wife over loyalty to the principles that built his father's company. Some bridges burn themselves. 3 months later, Steelbridge Industries reported the most profitable quarter in company history. Turns out that when you promote based on competence instead of connections, when you listen to people who understand the work instead of consultants who've never held a wrench, things tend to improve rapidly. The pen clicks came in steady rhythm as I signed the quarterly reports, short and measured, the sound of a system operating as designed. Real power isn't loud or flashy. It doesn't need announcements or press releases. It sits quietly in legal documents and shareholder agreements, waiting for the moment when someone mistakes authority for competence. Listen, if this story resonates with you, if you've ever watched incompetent people get promoted over qualified workers, if you believe that respect should be earned rather than inherited, then you understand what happened here. This wasn't about revenge or personal grudges. This was about protecting the principles that built American industry: merit, competence, and the idea that leadership comes from understanding the work, not from having the right last name. Subscribe if you want more stories about what happens when working professionals finally get the recognition they've earned.